into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Yes. Welcome to the AFTERBUZZ TV's True Detective After Show. I would let the music breathe a little bit, but because it's the last time we're going to hear it.
Yeah, Swan song.
Swan song.
Oh, I'm going to miss it terribly.
I do miss that theme song already, though. It's an excellent theme song. It was a
very good theme song.
The music was excellent, too, I believe, in this. I thought so.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about True Detective Episode 8, Omega Station. We have a full panel here, but for maybe the first time all season?
No.
Second time.
Third time.
Second time.
Third time?
Third time.
Third time.
Don't get cocky, Flippo.
Don't need to crap from you people.
As you can see or hear, we're joined by my man Joe Sanfelippo. Good to see you, Flippo.
I'm sorry. I didn't know it was suit day. I wish you guys would call me if it was suit day.
That's right.
But I'm not wearing a suit.
It's suit day every day for Ben Bateman.
Well,
That's true. I've never seen Ben outside of a suit.
And we're also joined by Julie Cearley. How are you, Julie?
Hello, I am well, thank you. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Gentlemen.
And also Ben Bateman in a suit.
I'm in a suit. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
I'm in a suit.
It's not.
Wear the suit well.
Yeah.
It's a 90-minute episode today, guys. I suggest we get into it, okay? There's a lot to talk about.
And I'm Joe Braswell. I'm here, too. So, yeah, lots to get into in this episode. We want to just basically sort of break this up into three parts, this podcast. We want to talk about kind of like the crime piece, like what happened, because there's a lot happened here, like crime-wise, and a lot of parts sort of came together. So we're going to walk through it. You did it last week when I was on the phone, when I was calling from space.
Yep. Underwater.
But
apologize to the kids for that.
Yes. But we're going to get to it then. Then we can break into sort of what's going on with the characters themselves, what happened in the episode.
Yeah.
And then after that, we can get into what we thought of season 2, what we thought the problems were, what we thought they did right, what went wrong. I know we all have some very, very serious opinions about this. I know Joe has some strong opinions about this as well.
Have you read Variety? Variety has some strong opinions,
Everyone
too.
has some strong opinions about this, but, we'll see.
Variety breaks their opinions up into 7 parts.
I will say, I've said all along that, this is the two things that we wanted to try to keep saying over and over again, which is this is season 2, not season 1. It's very hard not to, compare season 2 to season 1.
Yep.
It's not apples and apples, same writer, but it's not apples and apples. So, season 1 was great. Most people thought so. And then also, this was an 8-hour movie, 8.5-hour movie, actually.
Yep.
So let's let this thing play out for 8.5 hours. We got our full 8.5 hours. We can now take a step back from it, look at the 8.5 hours, and say, what do we think? So I think that's what we're going to do in the back half. But before we do that, let's get into actually the crime piece, because Nick Pizzolatto is a crime writer. He writes about crime first, and then he writes about sort of people who solve these crimes or involved in these crimes second. I think that he does both those things very well. He writes great characters, I think, in general. These broken characters who come together. He writes great crime stuff separately. In this instance, putting those two together, a lot happened. We have a lot of characters and a lot of crime. So I'll start with you, Ben. What happened? So let me get this straight. So there was a robbery in 1992.
Let's see if I can get this straight.
Okay.
I ranted a little bit last week about this. So
yes. One more time.
What I think happened chronologically, unless you want to go with like the Chisani family and Vinci just being like a powerhouse in that area long before the 1992 robbery. But starting with the 1992 robbery, I believe Ben Casper was having an affair of some kind or some sort of relationship with the owner of this jewelry store.
Right.
And she was pregnant with his child. And during some riots, two cops, Burris and Holloway, both of whom were the two gentlemen we saw in tonight's episode at the train station, they executed at gunpoint the pregnant woman that Casper was having an affair with, as well as her husband.
Right.
While the two... Does that make sense, actually? Because I thought both kids were watching, and I thought she was pregnant with one of the kids.
She was pregnant with their second illegitimate child.
Right.
Gotcha.
Laura was his first illegitimate child with her.
So, the two children who we have now seen grown up in this season watched as this execution happened.
Now, the purpose of the robbery was to get these fancy blue diamonds.
Yes, that were valued at $2.5 million.
Right. To have them, or was it with a view to do what they did in the future, which is buy into this railway? I mean,
what I believe happened was that the diamonds were supposed to be their way to buy into the Vinci underbelly, which was eventually going to finance this railway.
Got it.
To buy their piece.
Yes.
And because of the public nature of the execution of Ben Casper found on the side of the road in episode 1, that's what stirred the pot, and why they're.
When we say they, just to be clear, we're talking about our people, Burris
and Holloway,
and Holloway, right?
Yeah. So if anybody's confused, Burris is the guy that killed Taylor Kitsch,
and Holloway's the guy with the awesome hair.
Yeah,
which looks like it hasn't been changed since 1992.
Yes, he's the guy that I'm
going to go with 1972.
He came
for Holloway.
Yeah, look at my dad had that hair.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that hair comes with some wooden shoes and a light up dance floor.
We go ahead.
I was going to say, unfortunately, he's a character that they decided to show us in episode 1 or 2 and then not bring back till episode 7 and not in uniform. So I actually, when he came back, I actually didn't realize who he was at first. But anyway, that's why the cover-up and all of these murders that we watched happen, to frame Velcoro and everything, that's why it all happened, because it's to cover up the trail that started with this execution to get these diamonds from crooked cops to buy into Vinci. That's where it all starts.
I have a question. Were they just sitting on these blue diamonds for the last 20 plus years?
Because there was no plan in 1992 for a high-speed rail system.
Just holding on to them in case a railway corridor or something awesome
I got this idea that we're going to build a high-speed rail station.
Nothing ever happened with the diamonds. They were with Casper. He had them. So if this was their way to buy into Vinci and to be muckety-mucks there, I mean, they didn't use the diamonds.
What I think, and granted, this is one of those moments I just want to say to our fans, because when I ranted on this last week, I tried my best to get it all straight, but there was definitely a couple comments that were like, well, you missed this obvious thing that was this. And I was sort of like, well, I guess I did miss that obvious thing. I do my best. We all do our best.
Of course.
But, I mean, you guys just do, you do a lot of research too, so maybe you catch them that I don't. But what I think happened is that he knew of these diamonds at the store. Casper, but he didn't own the diamonds. Right. So Holloway and Burris stole the diamonds, and I think because Casper was like a man about town in that neighborhood, I think they moved the diamonds to him, and sort of him holding on to him, he was built into that scene, which is, I think he was sort of like their gateway in. Like, I think he put him up to it, is what I got.
So here's the thing. So by chance, because there's a lot of chance things that happen here. But it's fine. So then the fact that Ray, so the whole Frank storyline, which is Frank trying to go straight, trying to buy his way into legitimacy by being part of this railway through Casper. The whole fact that Casper screwed Frank and then got killed had nothing to do with it. That was
total coincidence.
Total coincidence, right? And
not connected to anything at all.
Super coincidence.
Also a coincidence. Ray Velcoro happened to be in Frank's pocket, and also in as part of the Vinci PD, the very guys who stole the diamonds in the first place.
Yes.
So Frank was coincidentally caught between the two worlds. I mean, Ray was. Right?
Yes. There was a lot of coincidence in this crime.
Wasn't sure. So Ray's existence as a character was he's tied to Vinci, to these guys, and he's tied to Frank, and it just so happens there's a bunch of crap going on.
Well, and Frank is tied to Vinci.
And Frank's tied to Vinci.
So he's in. That's another sort of way that he's in. Yeah.
Got it. And then so now when actually Casper is actually found, we get to Velcoro. So we get to Bizzaretti's and Woodrow because of the multi-jurisdictional thing.
Yes.
You know, by chance again, Woodrow stumbles upon Casper's body, who was found in Bizzaretti's jurisdiction.
And Ventura. So
that's how episodes 1 through 4 we get these 3 separate cops working on this one case that had to be solved, right?
Yes.
So by episode 4, we have the shootout that happens in episode 4. It sort of, in effect, solves the case itself. I'm confused in the shootout part. I know that the shootout was they got a tip by Vinci PD. We know now is dirty, to squash the Casper case, so they can then handle it on their own, I assume.
Yes, what I think happened was they say that Maria, who is the crazy guy in the wife beater with the gun, the huge gun, the last one.
Yes.
Yeah, the Yellow King. He was picked up 6 years earlier by Burris and let off the hook with no penalty.
Got it.
So the evidence was inadmissible or something like that. So he got a tip from a dirty cop, which I think we're supposed to assume is Burris, because Burris is the guy that knew him, which is why the shootout went that way, and they knew they were coming. And I believe Teague Dixon, as I always refer to the heavyset cop who was sloppy, who took the shot to the head, was. I think that was just like a happenstance shot to the head. He wasn't like supposed to be taken out. He just happened to get taken out.
Well, were they all supposed to be taken out to put this whole thing to bed? So it's on paper as the case is solved. Unfortunately, everybody died.
Well, there's really no way to lose, right? Because even if they, no matter how you cut it, they ordered the strike. So even if they all die, that's great. If they don't die, they're all screwed anyway because they have a huge black mark on the record. And either way, the case is solved because that guy's dead.
The case is solved on paper.
Got it.
There was enough reason for hand slapping that I think they knew this. You would be able to make judge these people and harshly turn their careers in the direction you want to get them off the case.
So that gets us out of episodes 1 through 4, which is that we get wider there and what's happening there. We do a lot of character building and get to know these characters, and we kind of get to know the world of Vinci. Then we get this crime, then it's in effect solved. We do the time jump to some months later, and our three protagonists are now brought back together by Davis, who's running a super double top secret investigation against the Vinci folks, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it brings them all together for that, which they all agree to.
Yes.
Frank, in this time later, is still trying to claw his way back and get his way back up from the money he got burnt from Casper.
Yep.
That's how he's still involved.
He's just trying to stay afloat.
Right. Just
and he hasn't given up hope.
Right.
Of getting back into the real corridor.
Okay.
Getting his piece.
So all of this makes sense to me, kinda. But I'm saying, like, I'm not making any judgment of the show because I actually enjoyed the show. We'll talk about that later. But I think the crime part was very convoluted. I'm not the only one who said that.
Sure.
So I'm not like shitting on the show. I'm just trying to figure out what's happening. That's what
we're just trying to clear up the storyline.
Sure. So here's where I get lost again, though. The Black Mountain guys.
Yeah.
Like they were working for
another coincidence, I believe.
Oh, another coincidence.
No, those guys are hired.
They were They were hired by Catalyst, which was the crooked company behind the railway development.
Right.
So they were
loaned out to the what you call it, the Vinci guys.
Right. Yes, but I'm just saying. I think it just so happened that Tim Riggins that Taylor Kitsch was in Black Mountain. And then also a cop involved in the investigation, and then also the Black Mountain mercenaries were hired by this crooked company Catalyst because they're guys that apparently don't mind getting their hands dirty for money. That's what we're supposed to believe. So they were willing to take this job. That's what I think we're supposed to believe. I think that's a coincidence.
So Holloway, Chief of Police Holloway, was actually Chief of Police, and Lieutenant Burris were in bed with Catalyst.
Yep.
And so that's why they have access to the super secret Black Mountain guys.
Because as they said when they were interrogating Taylor Kitsch in the tunnels under Los Angeles, when we were tossing Dixon's place, we just happened to get lucky enough to come across these photos that he had outside of our own investigation of the two of you guys getting it on.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
They weren't even aware of it. So it was, I think, entirely coincidental that the same mercenary organization that Taylor Kitsch was a part of was also hired by Catalyst, and then he was investigating Catalyst at the same time.
But they had to know that he was a part of it because from the very first episode, when he gets in trouble with the actress, the tabloids are printing it all over the place that he was part of Black Mountain.
Yes. So
yeah, but Black Mountain's since gone.
But this was almost a year later.
But they changed their name.
But they had to have known that he was involved.
Right. So I would love to see the Pizzolatto master board of how this all connects and how he wrote this out. Okay, so the question I'm having, because it's
that makes sense. Actually, that just clicked.
Yeah,
they maybe hired Black Mountain because they knew he was previously a part of Black Mountain. Like they knew him, like they know the guy or something.
That's a lot of money to spend just to get rid of one guy.
Yeah,
right. So they do that. So Black Mountain and Woodrow are connected. That's how Woodrow's directly draw the line connected to Vinci. We know how Frank's connected. We know how Bizzaretti's is connected. I assume. How's Bizzaretti's? Bizzaretti's just purely also coincidence that she finds herself in this whole mess in Vinci because she's way out in Ventura County minding her own business, and now she's like smack dab in the middle of this Vinci thing. Is it only because of the Casper thing? Is it only coincidence?
Well, she got thrown onto the case, right, jurisdictionally, and then not pulled off because it was supposed to be mucked up, and they were kind of tossing their 3 expendable cops into this thing that they assumed was going to explode. As they say
Originally,
early,
they wanted her to get intel on Ray.
that's right.
Right.
So that was her main purpose. And
Okay.
I mean, she was there because of jurisdiction, but then they
Right.
asked her to go, dig into what
Go
Ray's been
sleep
up
with
to.
them. Go, yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
the interesting thing is,
But then, I'm sorry, there's a lot of coincidence with her involved with her father and
Yeah.
Panticapam. Did I say that right?
I don't know.
Which one? Who?
Her father's
Yes,
Institute.
super
Oh,
hippie,
sure.
dippy, culty thing.
Commune, if you will.
Commune, which
Yes.
has ties to Vinci and
Yeah.
Cisani
Yeah.
and Pitler and all those people as well.
Funny family who just Okay, so that makes sense, I think, and so so that's the connections. Okay, so what I'm getting at is there seems to be in the Pizzolatto stuff always some higher, super high force that sort of puppet stringing the whole thing. And it sort of hints at that there's like it's all about the Chisanis and catalysts that are really puppet mastering this whole thing, but kind of not really, because there's a lot more coincidence and sort of like chaos theory than there is actual puppet mastering, right?
Sure.
I mean, I'm making sure I'm not missing anything. Was there a real puppet master, or was it just like a lot of 2 bad guys up top and a lot of coincidences down here?
Well, who was the highest member, level of power that existed in the show that we actually ever saw? I think we assumed...
I probably was a similar catalyst guy who was in here.
McCandless.
McCandless
Jacob
was
McCandless.
real high up.
He
We
was high
assumed-
up. Osip was pretty
Osip was
high
pretty
up.
high up.
And then
Tony Chisani.
the Chisani
Tony
family,
Chisani.
right?
Yeah.
Those are the biggest. Those are the biggest names. I mean, aside from maybe some politicians that were at the orgy that we probably didn't really know very well, that you assume are pretty connected.
Yeah.
But so the characters that we actually knew, none of those 3 guys, McCandless, Tony Chisani, or Osip, are true I don't know. None of them felt like they were complete puppet masters. They were just pieces of the story.
No, and I think if there's anything to be said for it, I think that's the idea is that there's not some one guy holding the strings. There's everybody following their own best interests,
Right.
and then if the story's told well enough, it should lead to conflict because people are just pursuing their own best interest to the exclusion of everything else. And I think it leads to Chisani, that whole family ends up playing out like a royal dynasty. The prince kills the king to become the king. I mean that all
Right.
filled out and that worked. I guess within the context of what we're talking about. But I think that you're right. I don't think there was an overarching. There was not a big bad. There was not like a you didn't get to the end of level 1 and then upgrade to
Yeah, you want to see.
We're not playing Super Mario Brothers. It was
Who's the dinosaur king in Super Mario Brothers?
I don't remember. I was trying to think of
Bowser?
it too. Bowser.
Yeah,
There's no Bowser.
Bowser.
There's no Bowser.
How did I pull that out?
was impressive.
I've never even played video games.
Yeah.
How do I know that?
So let's get into this. So we open with this. Now we got that out of the way. It took us about 15 minutes to get that.
No, we didn't finish it.
We
No,
didn't
we
finish.
didn't.
We have to
No.
go over what? We have to go over what actually happened
Yes.
with tonight's episode, the bow on top with the kids.
Yeah, we need-
The kids,
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
I was
actual
gonna-
murder.
I was going to get into the episode itself.
Oh, gotcha,
Okay.
gotcha,
I was going
gotcha.
to go from the crime itself. I'm going to just use this as a segue to get into the episode. We can get into that.
Sure.
What we have
Sure,
to talk
sure.
about the episode.
Okay.
So we have the aftermath of Woodrow, being shot, which he was dead this time. I mean, I think there was a moment where we thought he can't die.
No,
and he did die.
Oh, he did.
Yes, he
died
did.
hard.
And so we start with that. That was and so were we allowed to believe that Annie and Ray were sort of just hiding out in the apartment in the safe house waiting to hear from Woodrow, and then they got tired and gave him a call? Is that what happened here?
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
Okay.
They weren't just hanging out.
Well, they were,
Making babies.
exactly. Ray was hanging out.
It was the classic. It was the classic Terminator 1 scenario. We'll sleep together once, and
that's it.
obviously,
That's all it
and you'll
takes.
obviously get pregnant.
Hey,
You know
that's what
what?
they say in sex ed. It only takes once.
Listen,
It's the old Kyle Reese.
Some of those guys out there, they're sex snipers. One shot, one kill, done.
Right. Seriously, man.
So, boom.
Yeah.
One shot, one kill. So they did that. Yeah, they do the Kyle Reese, Sarah Connor situation.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have that. We find out. This is where we really sort of find out
Yeah.
that all the people we mentioned are super bad. Lieutenant
Burris and
Lieutenant
Dixon.
Burris and Holloway.
Holloway,
Are actually the real guys. So then. From there, so after they have their tryst, and after they are found out, from there they start to put together that the guy on the movie set
Right. Okay, so this was... Yeah, exactly. This was a jump. This was definitely that moment.
No, I'm serious. I've seen jumps before. This was a flying leap from London that landed at JFK. I'm not sure exactly how he skipped across the Atlantic Ocean.
I will say, in episode 2, there was a clue. In episode 2, the mask was there in episode 2 when they visited the set, and the set photographer was there. I think one of the crazy masks was actually on the set to maybe give us the hint and the clue that someone in that set, not the Cary Fukunaga wannabe.
It was the mask of the person that Vesrides ran down, right?
Yes.
She almost got hit by a truck.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All the same. That doesn't.
Hey man,
you can't do it.
You slipped in a toilet at Heathrow and you landed at JFK. That is the extent of that leap.
It's the second episode in a row, by the way, where in one sweeping 90-second bit of exposition,
right,
2 people talking are supposed to just be like, oh my goodness, they're the same person.
I have pictures of them as children. Oh, that must be Erica. Her name's not Laura. She goes by Erica. Oh, wait, she talked to a set photographer once.
Erica and Leonard. Lenny.
And they
Let's
look
go
alike.
find him.
You call them a leap?
They don't look alike.
You call them a leap?
Because they're only half related.
They do, and have you seen pictures of the kids versus the adults they cast? I'm like, who the fuck did the casting?
Right.
And they're only half
each other.
siblings.
All right,
I'm sorry.
All right, I know we're all
I love everybody.
Bring it back.
Well, it's tough. It's really tough because, I'm jumping off subject for a second, but you guys have all seen Ronin. I'm assuming it's like a classic crime movie, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Everybody loves Ronin. I went and watched Ronin a couple years back, and the movie's great. Right up to this point where De Niro and the other guy are sitting there, and he looks over, and he sees like a briefcase, and he says something like, "Briefcase, ice skates. Let's go to the ice skating rink." And I just that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, when something like that happens, it feels like the bookcase falls over. There's it's like the story is just, and this was one of those moments where you're watching and I was like, I loved everything about this episode except for the moments where it's just exposition. The same thing happened when Frank is talking to Nails and he's like, "Thanks so much for doing this for me." He's like, "I remember that time you found me and I was bleeding out and you threw me over your shoulder. That this thing we've probably talked about 100 times in our friendship that I don't need to explain to you verbatim again for the last time but I want the audience to know, so I'm going to explain it to you one last time before I leave. I was bleeding out." Like,
all right, well, let's get. We can get to that. All the criticism in a second. I get it.
Right?
I think part of that exposition, part of all those leaps that we make. First of all, yes, I was going to say you call it a leap. I call it just detective work. Okay.
That's just good detectiving.
It's called True Detective. There's some good detectiving. We got 2 detectives in the room.
They detected the shit out of that. Is what they did.
It was like 3% of the episode. I like 97% of the episode. I loved it.
But yeah, I think it was a well-directed episode. Too.
Yeah,
it was a fantastic episode. But I will say this: that there's some leaps made. I think that when Pizzolatto's writing all this stuff and all this exposition that happens, I think either Andy Greenwald or Chris Ryan made this point in Grantland. They're saying sort of like how when Cary Fukunaga did the same stuff happened worse in season 1, way worse, but we didn't notice it as much because Cary Fukunaga said, "That's interesting, but I'm gonna go over here and check out this taco stand, or I'm gonna go over here." He put the camera other places and get us so much more to look at, or put the characters in the background, put some interesting things in the foreground, so that we were really in this whole world. So while Woody Harrelson and McConaughey are yapping back forward doing all this exposition that in another world, another director we may not care about if it's just 2 guys sitting in a room looking at each other.
Right.
We have this whole world. We didn't get that this time. We got literally 2 guys in a room. Everything was 2 people in a room talking, saying, telling everybody what it was, and it was very flat. From Frank and Jordan, from Annie and Ray to everybody's just two people in a room talking it out. And I think that on paper or in a book, for Pizzolatto, that's all maybe well-written stuff, but I think you have to be able to translate that to the visual medium of television. I think that's where we have some failures, but moving on. So they did some detecting. They found out they made it to the movie set. They went and found the girl. They went to the house.
Yep.
Found the girl handcuffed there. She then tells him also another zap bang piece of exposition. Here's what the whole last 8 episodes is about. He makes that. Then they go to Omega Station for what I thought
Anaheim
was
Arctic Station. That's the new station. Have you been there?
No, I haven't been there yet.
It's beautiful.
I don't really go.
It's empty.
I don't go to Orange County. You know that. But I'm like, where is this? I was like, that looks like That looks like the pond back there. That's Angel Stadium. This is Orange County. I don't know what this is.
Oh,
that's a real
I had
place.
no idea.
That's a real place.
Okay.
Yeah, they built it. It's down by Disney, and it's by Disney and Angel Stadium and what do you call it, the Honda Center.
Yeah,
and the idea behind it is eventually it's going to be the hub for the high speed rail. But right now it is an enormous, gorgeous, completely empty station. There's like nothing happening there.
Oh, so it's really just empty there.
Well, I mean, it's not
cool
empty. And
looking.
you still take if you took the train down, you would stop there.
Oh, okay.
But it's really underutilized considering its size and beauty.
Well, next time I never go to Orange County, I'll check it out. So I thought that set piece of the whole. So Frank goes down. I'm sorry. Ray goes down to intercept the drop,
Yes.
which is not actually supposed to be a
Lenny.
drop. It's supposed to be an execution, really.
Right, because
there's
Yes.
nothing on the hard drive.
Nothing on the hard drive.
Right.
Right.
I thought, for as weird as that whole thing was, that was a very intriguing, wonderful set piece. I thought that was
good
really
scene.
cool. That was a great scene. I thought I also find it strange that for all these black mountain people that they have, that Chief of Police Holloway and Lieutenant Burris are the
Went
only two
alone.
guys that can handle this whole situation. But I guess
they want to keep it on wraps. But first off, I do want to say that the costume that Velcoro wore, I thought was terrific. And somewhere there's a cowboy that couldn't find his hat because he stole it.
I thought it was dope. I don't know.
Yeah,
I loved it.
It's
I'm
classic.
glad that I'm in the minority.
Style over
Why
substance.
do you think he stole it? He always wore a bolo tie.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he wore the glasses inside and the whole thing. And,
I loved it.
Well, he's
you
like
bought
public
it.
enemy number one.
Okay, so he convinces the kid, right, in a scene that we don't see,
Yeah.
that trust me, I'm a guy you don't know, but let me set this all up, and I'm going to make this confession thing happen, right? And so the kid totally buys it, right? The kid who's stapled his sister, who's handcuffed his sister to the fireplace, and he goes to the train station to get to do this thing, but he's convinced in 15 seconds that we don't see that don't worry, trust me, I got this, right? That's
Right.
where
Velcoro's very persuasive.
he
He
is.
wasn't that convinced because he lost it and blew it and started stabbing the guy. So he wasn't that convinced.
wasn't that convinced.
It's kind of like telling your friend who just got broken up. You're like, hey, don't call your ex-girlfriend. You're not gonna like. He's okay. You're right. You're right. And then he gets lonely that night and he calls her. I mean, it's like
So 3 in the morning, you leave me? He's outside her window howling, and you're trying to put him back in his car.
emotion takes over. So
I got you.
he was convinced for a minute.
Shout out to
Well,
Efren Brett.
there was the potential to have the entire story exposed if you just could hold it for 1 minute, hold it together, get everything on tape, and then do what you got to do. If you got to stab the guy to death, whatever.
Right.
But that was a big opportunity to bring everything to light.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, though.
It didn't happen.
It did not.
I think as a
It did not.
I really think, although we're kind of in agreement that the series may not have worked as well as we wanted to work, I think this episode 8, I thought it was great. I thought it worked well as a standalone set piece.
Aside from the unnecessary exposition, not unnecessary, extremely necessary.
You got to tie some bows here, pal.
But it's aside from the fact that most of the exposition in the episode, just like last episode, just felt like they were giving us all of the information now. Aside from that stuff,
Right.
I thought this was the best episode of the season by a long shot.
Well, I mean, this
way more
episode
exciting.
8 was. It had to be 90 minutes because it was a full blown, tie everything in a bow, wrap things up, information dump. We had to solve all these, tie all these loose ends together. Which, as we went over for 15 minutes, they're all kind of coincidental.
Yeah.
So we have to somehow tie all these coincidences together. I wasn't quite satisfied how they did that, but I think the episode itself, directed by my man John Crawley, was great.
Yep.
I think that set piece was great. I thought that the stabbing, I bought all that.
Yep.
So we get past that, and I want to just jump back from that back over to Frank and Jordan, because we have that scene with Frank and Jordan in Union Station, which I want to talk about. Which, I don't know. It was somewhere between either really moving or really laughable.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Julia, did you like the whole throwing off the rings
I
and
err
meeting
on
in
the
the white
side
suit?
of laughable. It's like he tried to Harry and Henderson's her.
Yeah.
Like, go, we don't love you, we don't need you,
Yeah,
you don't
right.
belong here.
Harry and the
She's supposed to just sulk off
Harry
like
and the
Bigfoot.
Hendersons. I like the reference. Go on.
It's
You're not,
true.
go on. You're not wanted here.
You're not wanted here.
You said Harry and the Hendersons. Oh my
But
God.
it's true, and I mean, it was. She even says like, "You're not that good of an actor," and it was just poor acting. It's like he was trying to act.
Well,
He was acting badly, and the whole scene felt
Why was it
completely flat to
happening in the
me.
goddamn train station? This is the conversation you have before you get to the train station.
Well-
what are you sitting in the car? Where are we going, Frank? I don't know. Where are we going? It's a secret. You now get out of the
true.
car. Now stand here in this very photogenic hallway.
Well, you're not even getting on a train.
Right, no one gets on a fucking train.
All right.
I don't know. I don't understand.
Joe hates it.
I thought First of all, I thought she did. I actually thought in that scene she did a bad job. I didn't think that Vaughn did a terrible job in the scene.
I agree.
I enjoyed Vince Vaughn in the scene.
I agree.
I thought she was pretty bad. However, I did think that the scene itself was very melodramatic, and I realized what they were trying to do with the setup with the white dress because the later scene in the desert, but
which was haunting and enjoyable.
But that was all like it was very overdone. I mean, the way I could tell that it was like overdone and not good was because when she gets in the car and he's walking away and she looks at him and she goes, all I thought of was Gary Busey in Point Break being like, Utah, get me too. And if it was, and I swear to God, if I hadn't been like laughing about the scene a little bit, I wouldn't have gone there. I would have just been like, I mean, that's not it's just a generic thing to do. But obviously, I could tell that I thought it was funnier than anything else because that came to mind, and I started chuckling.
You know, I've been saying for 8 episodes, I like their scenes together. I like their relationship.
That's why I went to you.
And this entire scene was such a letdown. I feel like the stakes are high, and there were things that could have been said, and it just turned into like this little moment of comedy hour.
Schlockfest. Well, I will say this. I disagree with all of you guys. I mean, there's varying degrees of not liking this. I actually bought it. I did start out. Really? I went back and forth as I'm watching this thing. And first of all, it's long, a little long.
So long.
But you know, again, another two-hander, another two people in the room just sort of yapping and talking.
Yeah, right.
But I will say, I went from like, oh boy, this sucks, and then like, oh, to like, oh, to like, oh,
and it's still happening.
But yes, I've had enough time in the scene to have 4 different emotions. But I thought for me it worked. The only problem I had with the scene in general, which I had with this episode in general, which they did a lot actually in the entire series, is a lot of telegraphing, a lot of like, don't worry, I'll be there. Wear the white dress. I'm like, he ain't gonna be there.
Of course he's gonna be there.
Right? And then when Velcro like dips off on Lower Canyon,
I couldn't have been more clear. Like, oh shit.
He's sitting around.
One thing.
Before that, when he's like, I'm on my way. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Nothing can happen. I'm gonna live forever.
He smiles. The one time we ever see him smile.
The biggest smile.
He's so in love.
Got money.
Finally.
We're gonna be in love.
Oh God.
Wait, I got one last stop to make. Like,
Okay, but I'm gonna just jump in for a second and get in the way of all the hijinks and laughing about this, because yes, so you know that he's not gonna make it as soon as he smiles that big for the first time the whole show. The wonderful smile, but he smiles and then he's like, I have to go take care of something. What it's reminiscent of, and this is why I appreciate it, is one of the great crime dramas of all time is Heat, and we all know in Heat, as soon as he decides to go back to take care of Waingro, we know that he's not gonna get out. And we all know as soon as he turns off, and it's in LA too.
Sure.
And I'm sure Pizzolatto's a fan of Heat. You can't be a crime writer and not be a fan of it. So that was to me like one of those, like, this is a classic bit of crime writing. Fair
enough.
You go to take care of one loose end.
Yeah, one loose end.
One more thing to say goodbye.
It
always sinks you. So I didn't think it was a thing where like the smile and the like, I'll be there in 40 minutes was like, you kind of knew that, but then like to make the decision, but it's because I have to go take care of this thing is the reason it's not going to happen.
But the point, I hear you on that, and I love Heat, and nice spoiler alert for Heat, and nice try on that.
If you haven't seen Heat at this point, it's on you.
Okay.
We can't.
Came out in 95.
It's like the best movie.
You've had 20 years. We can't help you at this point.
But I will say this, that like I hear what you're saying. I just, I feel like that there's just too much. It's just so big fat softballs of like telegraphing in this episode. It was kind of like to the point of melodrama when he's
like on the phone. He's like she's like, what? She's like, I'll see you later. And they like hang up. You're like, what are you gonna say? I love you.
Early on, there was no doubt that Frank or Ray were not gonna make it out. There's no doubt early on in this episode. But before let's jump back into the heist, because another piece of like, we get to the 45-minute standpoint, and it seems all is lost. The Omega Station goes to shit. They're still fugitives. No one knows what they've done. They have some evidence. The hard drive's wiped. The recorder that he's recording got smashed.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do but join forces with Frank, which I predicted in episode 1, by the way, that they would join forces with Frank.
I think I predicted in episode 6 or 7, and guys, if you've been listening or watching, and because I can't quite remember my exact prediction, it's all convoluted now, I think I predicted that all 3 of the characters that died were going to die. I'm pretty sure I said in episode 6.
All right.
I think I said the only one of the 4 that's going to live at the end is on.
I'll check the tape.
But I could be wrong.
I'll check the tape.
I hope I'm not.
I hope you did, because that would be pretty badass.
It'd be a pretty baller call it.
But I will say that they get together for one last heist, and it was sort of the heist that it's all how much money was it?
$12 million.
$12 million, all there in cash, and I liked it. I like the idea of these guys coming together. I like the guns. You finally see all the characters in one room together. Although, what did you think of the interaction between Vince Vaughn and
Osip?
No, between Vince Vaughn and Annie and Bizzaretti's. They're one line together.
It was fine.
Yeah.
You know,
It was nice to have them finally meet.
you're the lady cop.
What gave
You're
it
a lady
away?
of class.
Oh, God. Okay,
Like
maybe
the
it wasn't as
tits.
great as I
Yeah.
thought.
What? To have tits?
Yeah.
No, because you're a lady.
It was fine. I liked. Yeah. Flippo just hated it.
I did. I wanted to not, but I did.
I don't know about that one. Okay, so they do the heist, and I don't. And here's the other thing. When Frank Simeon, he's a gangster, but he's got some pretty heavy duty hardware.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got some night vision. He's got some gas mask stuff. I don't know when did these guys become such like heavy hitters. I know Frank's kind of a street gangster, but now all of a sudden he's a friggin' commando.
Blown arsenal.
Anyway, but they do the heist, and I feel like it was a little anticlimactic.
It's a little too easy.
They go in there, and of course, all the bad guys are there. There's Yusuf, there's McCandless, I'm sorry.
Yep.
There's everyone there, and they throw the gas in, everybody runs out, spray them all down, grab the money, and go. That was the most anticlimactic heist ever.
But I think that was designed to be that way. In fairness, that was designed to be, because that's not the end. That was just the. I think that's points to Frank's hubris, right? That he thought he had everything tied up, and the only thing he didn't count on were the Mexicans. And I think that was the idea, right? Is
Right.
like we thought we bought into it, right?
Yeah, I was
So
good
you
with
saw that Cadillac stop for more than 10 seconds. Like, oh, that
no.
Cadillac's been stopped way too long.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't mind that. One thing about Frank that I think is funny, and credit to, and I wish I had a better memory to just remember the name of the person that sent us that email about him like trying to use $10 words all the time.
Yeah.
One credit to Pizzolatto's writing with Frank, and I noticed in this episode, he made another comment in this one about when your lights go out, you're going to know it's me.
A lot of lights going out.
Or he said, what lights out?
Maybe not today.
Yeah.
Maybe not tomorrow. But when the lights go out, it's me.
It's me, and that's the second time that he used the one. Because in the previous episode, he says to Blake, "Right, I want to watch your lights go out." And like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, he's kind of a dork. Like at the end of the day, he's this big, tall, lanky gangster who's kind of gotten to where he is, but like. He tries really hard to be cool. He tries so hard to be cool. And it's kind of funny that might be a real character as the gangster that made a lot of money and killed a lot of people, but it's not actually very cool. He just wants to be cool.
So you think that like off camera people are like, God damn, Frank, come on, man. Why would you really?
Or like his henchmen.
Lights again?
His henchmen are like drinking beers. Like when he's not around, they're like, yeah, boss, sometimes he's kind of,
Nah, he goes and he shoots Tony,
cheesy.
but then he does that freaking lights thing again. It's so embarrassing.
I think what happened there,
Like, oh, Mom.
right.
God, Mom.
what it feels like to me is that like tonally it's kind of started in one place with Frank being the sort of solemn, real like boss gangster guy in the Justin Lin episodes. Like Frank very much started as like the solemn, like I'm a badass episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then in the back half of that, we start to see more of the Vince Vaughn-ish stuff come out. I think it's hard not to have a character written for Vince Vaughn, have Vince Vaughn there without him giving a little wink and a smile. So I think a lot of that stuff was an effort to sort of give Vince Vaughn an opportunity to do his Vince Vaughn shit. And I think that it worked. I think a lot of the time for me when he's doing all that stuff, you kind of get that little flair of personality you need from Vince Vaughn. But I think this is kind of the problem with the character itself, is that either he's a solemn badass or he's the winky other guy. I think he was neither, but we'll get to that in a second. But after the heist, they have the escape plan. They're all going to Venezuela, right?
Yep.
No, extradition is shit.
Yep.
They got the boat. They got the plan. They got the Scarface broad. They got the secret room in the bar.
Yeah.
Who my girl's still playing. Empty bar.
Oh, she'd play all night. She didn't care.
She's great.
She's there for the music, baby.
Chairs are up. Places
Maybe she was
closed.
doing
Give a
sound check,
shit.
guys.
There's secret shit happening upstairs.
Doesn't
but
matter.
She's still playing.
Sound check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
That's fantastic.
Sad ass song. I'm gonna sing a sad ass song.
I loved her.
I like her a lot. Her name is like
loved her.
Laura
something.
Laura sad
Laura?
damn song.
Erica?
What was her name?
Laura.
Anyway, so
I'm trying to find her.
She can sing. She got a voice.
She's great. Yeah.
So she was. Yeah, they have the escape plan. Everything seems to be going perfectly until everything doesn't go perfectly. Frank gets intercepted by the cartel guys, driven out to the desert, and he still almost made it out. I actually thought Frank might make it.
Now, do you think? Now, here's. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that the die was cast. They were killing him no matter what.
No.
I don't know. I think so, man.
I think they're gonna leave
the
him out
one
there.
guy. The one guy says, come on, I want his suit. That was. What do? You're gonna take the suit off the guy's back and let him walk naked back through the desert?
No,
How
you
far?
don't drive out to the desert, dig the hole, and then drive off. Why'd you dig the hole?
I don't know. I think they may have. I think we were supposed to believe that they were going to let him go, and that the thing that pushed Frank over the edge is not being able to like kneel down, like that one moment, like take my just the last bit of dignity he had. Well, here's a question. Do you think, if by your theory, do you think that Frank knew he was going to die? That's why he punched the guy, or do you think it was just I can't take this?
No, he had the diamonds in his jacket.
There you go. He didn't have a choice.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
I thought the same thing at first. It was like Frank,
I forgot about the
Frank, come on! And I was like, oh shit, the diamonds.
There's
are in your
nothing
pocket.
left for him if he gives up the suit. There's nothing. And I think ultimately, I think the Mexicans are going to kill him no matter what. I don't think there was any. I don't think. This is my 2 cents. Is I don't think he had a chance. But yeah, you can't give him the suit. The suit's all he's got left. Is the diamonds.
Okay.
And I like that he went down swinging.
Well, they could have. They had 50 guns. They could have just lit them up, like freaking, Bonnie and Clyde style.
But how much more effed up is it to let him walk back through the desert bleeding out? I mean, that's much colder.
It's gnarly.
Okay, so that happened. They gave
grim.
him nice line, like we gave you a nice bed to lay in, Frank, and he kind of
lay down.
Now, what do we make of sort of like Frank's journey, through his life and through what he went through and how it ended for Frank? What do we make of that? Was there some sort of redemption in that for him? Was there some sort of peace or resolution in that for him? What were we supposed to take from that journey? Let me start with you, Julia. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Dude gets stabbed. He gets up. He's going to make it to his wife. His dad's in his ear. The homeboys from the 80s and the Kango were in his ear. Like, the poor guy who he left to, to die. And then he sees his wife, and then the buzzard's behind him, and he drops dead. What's our takeaway?
I thought it was actually quite sad because you see this man who has really clawed his way out from a desperate situation as a child, being told you're nothing, being told I don't love you, and then the little gangster kids who are giving him all sorts of shit, and he rises above and he always has a bigger plan, a higher plan to get out and to prove them all wrong, and to just be brought down at the very last minute. Even though he had like this moment with his wife, who like I said, I've loved them from the beginning. I've loved their relationship.
He's partial redheads.
I am partial redheads. I don't know. I thought it was very sad and actually quite moving and haunting, especially with the vultures behind him.
Joe, did it work for you?
I have some problems with the characters. With three of the characters, I don't feel that there was much growth at all. I don't feel like, and I think that's whether people identify what their issue is with the show or not. But a lot of people have been so disappointed because we're used to seeing in most television and most film an arc. We're used to seeing growth in the characters. We've become accustomed to the idea that as things happen to characters, they change, they grow, and that growth will lead to redemption. And that's kind of something that's become set in our minds. And when we don't get it, we're often confused. And I don't think Frank changed.
Okay.
Nothing about his character changed throughout this show.
It's an interesting point.
It's a straight line, right?
Straight line, right? There's no growth, there's no arc, straight line. I am who I am. And that is exactly what killed him, right?
But isn't there something to be said about that? Like, especially from the standpoint of like, look, sometimes in Pizzolatto's writing, people don't change. I start at this point, I go to here.
And I don't think Bezarides changed. I don't think Woodrow changed.
But
I think the only one that changed is Velcoro.
But that's somehow how stories are told. Like, we're these people, we're set in stone on the rails to do this. A bunch of shit happens around us. We're on rails, and maybe something will happen.
So this is my issue with it. So if the characters aren't going to change, if the characters are set, and the plot line revolves around the characters not changing, and the plot is convoluted and confusing, then what you've got is what happened this season. A lot of people who checked out because they didn't empathize with the characters because the characters weren't growing and changing, and the plot was too confusing. So a lot of people went screw it and bailed, and that is what the issue has been with the show. I think that's one. There's another I think overarching issue also, but this to me, this is not good TV when the character doesn't change. If the character stays the same, I think it's interesting writing. I think it's very interesting, what do you call it, formulaic writing, because you can see, and they laid it out very clearly, that Frank had no choice. Frank's character led to this moment, no question about it, right? He continued to be him all the way through, and this is exactly how he landed no matter what he did, right? And to me, that's interesting, but it doesn't allow for any growth or any love. I didn't feel anything for Frank. I felt disappointed because there's a part of me that wanted them to make it out, but that is the part of me that loves Vince Vaughn, not the part of me that loves Frank.
Sure. Ben?
Yeah, so, okay, I think I pretty much agree with you. It's a really interesting point. It actually plays on a point that I made earlier in the season, which was that I felt like for the first 3 or 4 episodes, we watched the same scene over and over again with Vince Vaughn. Like, half the show was the same scene, right? Until he started to open up after the time jump a little bit, especially the last 2 episodes as he was actually doing instead of talking about
some interesting stuff.
But, so that's an interesting point, that I think he was pretty much the same from beginning to end. We didn't see see a lot of growth. And Taylor Kitsch, to his credit or to his detriment, I mean, I don't know if it's his fault, but yeah, the character didn't really grow at all. He just was kind of a nothing character. Like one of our fans got really upset on YouTube that I said I didn't care at all when he died, but I just didn't care.
I didn't understand why he was even there.
But I don't think I necessarily agree with you that Bezzarides didn't grow, and I think she actually did because
Velcoro
definitely grew.
No question.
He definitely grew. I think Bezzarides did grow, and I think you can see it mostly in the final few episodes as her willingness to like. And I think that's the reason we saw the scene that this episode started with. She's willing to now talk about something she's never talked about in her life. She's opening up to someone. She's, you know what I mean? It's not, I don't know, like her willingness to run, abandon justice, change her hair and go just run off. Like, I don't think that's the kind of character she was when the season started. She wasn't saying fuck it just to say fuck it. She wasn't just, like, I think she developed a little bit more of a sense of she wanted to live for a reason. I think at the beginning of the show, it kind of like she was just trying to put herself in harm's way. As she said, when she goes to the orgy, she's like, I think I was looking for that my whole life. She wanted to kill someone. She wanted to put herself in harm's way. So I think she did change, and it actually is the affirmation that I think Velcoro and Bezzarides were by far the most engaging part of the show, and it was actually nice to see their relationship turn into what it did, because without that, the other half of the show was very boring. Yeah. And after 8 episodes,
and they were clearly the best parts of the show from an acting standpoint and a character standpoint. I mean, two of the best characters, 2 of the best actors. I want to just jump to the end and then come back to Ray as a way to talk about how we felt about the characters. So obviously we know it went bad for Ray. Annie gets in the boat. She's off to Venezuela. She meets up with Jordan, of course. We don't see the scene, which I thought we would see, of Annie meeting Jordan in the white dress, but we got that when Frank saw her, sort of.
Great, by the way. That was terrific.
That was very sweet. But we did get the reveal of, the baby, which of course I'm like, did Jordan get pregnant? And then they hand it over to Annie, and it's like, oh my God, it's Annie's baby. That's
she says it first. It's because the earlier line is his son's.
His sons. His sons.
Yeah. But in that moment, I was like, his sons. I'm like, but that's so that was kind of sweet. Then we also have the reporter who Velcoro jacked up in episode 1 or 2, there with all the evidence to presumably tell the story. We get the nice montage of sort of like, with the Pizzolatto thing, like the big cat, the fat cats keep on getting fat, the railway's going, Chazani Jr.'s in power, everyone's there. So but we can only assume that maybe they'll get taken down by the writing, maybe they won't.
In theory.
Who knows where Annie and Jordan are off to, what they're going to be doing in their long journey. I was okay with the ending. People hated the ending, but I was okay with the way that sort of ended for me.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the ending? And then we can jump back and think about what we thought of the series.
Well, the Velcoro, too, you're talking about the shootout?
No, I mean, and I'm sorry, the way it ended, not the shootout part, but just the resolution, the last shots of like them being in Venezuela together, them, the montage of the power structure being intact, and also the 2 ladies being off as survivors alone. Was that satisfying to you, or were you like, I mean, how do you feel about that ending?
I was cool. I was fine with the 2 women going off with nails. I thought that was fine.
Right.
I think you're supposed to just sort of be like, who knows? Well, I don't know, actually. Would they still be with nails? Would they have been surviving that long? I'm not really sure.
He said he wasn't going
to leave her.
Right.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, like, I guess you have to wrap it up. You have to. There's ending a show is the hardest thing, they say.
Well, it feels like. Let's just jump into this, because I want to guys hear what you guys have to say. But let's just jump into the whole the thing as a whole.
Excuse me.
I think that the way we can separate this is I want to talk about what we thought about the characters, which we did very much talk about a little bit, and then what we thought about this whole 8.5-hour movie, if it was a success or if it was a failure, and why, or what went right and wrong. I do want to start with Velcoro. His ending is kind of the ending I think that we all thought was probably going to happen to him since the moment we saw him in episode 1. I don't think any of us thought like, oh, this guy's going to turn around and be, living in a white picket fence somewhere. We kind of knew that this is how it was going to end for this guy. We had hope. We had him killed in episode 2.
Yep.
We had hope for him, but we kind of knew how this would end. I was. It was telegraphed all to hell, but I was pretty satisfied with that ending. It was very sad.
His?
And it was. I thought it was very cool that that turned out to be his son, which was great.
Yeah.
It was also very sad that. Very tragic that he did not get to send the message.
Yep.
Or that it did not upload, which is kind of sad. I don't know. It's a lot of like Shakespearean tragedy meets sort of like real world. I don't know. I was okay with this sort of Pizzolatto way to do things. But Joe, you hated it.
No, I didn't hate it. The message is so interesting to me because I think that I think I've mentioned this before. The kid is a fascinating. The way they did the kid, the way they cast the kid, and the way they've shot the kid is always it's been so interesting to me because it's the kid doesn't do anything that I'm aware of. He doesn't do. He's not good at anything. He's not bad at anything. He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And I think that's intentional. And it's funny to me. Not funny, but I guess it's interesting. It's an interesting choice that the message he's leaving his son is this: you're better than me. You're this. You're that.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? This isn't about the kid. I mean, it's about the kid in reference to Velcoro and his commitment to him and his commitment to this idea of doing the right thing, being the right guy. But I don't think it's really about the kid, and I think that's what's interesting about that message. If you listen to what he was saying, it was all about how amazing this kid is and what an amazing guy he is and all this. And you're better than me. I'm not good. You're great. And and I understand the intention behind it, but the way you played it, it really felt very much like a confession, and it was interesting because I didn't see any of those qualities in the kid necessarily. But and then of course the thing to me, the only thing I didn't like about it was that message didn't get sent. That was rough. That to me was.
You didn't like that?
I felt that was an unnecessary cruelty.
Well, at least send the message. Right? He's already died.
Let the flipping message go.
He's already dead.
But that's like, don't you think the message? Sorry to interrupt. Don't you think the message not being sent is kind of like, it was one of those like, you guys don't really want us to tie up every little thing and every little thing at the end of this to all feel like it kind of worked out the way it was supposed to. It's like that's one of those moments where you're like, yeah, in real life, if you had this moment of, you record this last message to your son because you know you're going to die. Well, maybe the message just doesn't send, and that's what happened. And the last thing you got was to salute to him, and that's that.
Or maybe it wasn't for his son at all. Maybe it was just for him. Maybe these things he had to say. Sometimes you write stuff in your journal and no one ever sees it. Maybe he got those words out, and maybe it was just for him.
But he was desperate to send it. And I think he was desperate to send it to him because the message that he was leaving his son was a message of strength, imposing strength upon him, and he knew what his fate was going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
So I feel that he thought if he could just say these words, whether he believed them now or not, if he could get those words to his son, they would wash over him hopefully and help him to deal with his father's death and deal with everything that he's dealt with, and yes, turn him into a pillar of strength.
And keep in mind, he's been leaving these recordings since episode 1. Like this has been an ongoing theme, or I think it was something actually they did early on and kind of abandoned and got back to it in this episode. But I don't know. I mean, I was okay with that. Did you? Were you okay with the ending of Velcoro and how he died and what happened with his storyline?
Yeah, well, because it was in the weird like near death moment when he's talking to Fred Ward in episode 3. He has where he's staring up at the woods. So it's already foreshadowed that's going to happen.
Yep.
But yeah, I liked it. I'm a real sucker for father-son stuff. I think I've said it on here before. That gets me more than anything.
Sure.
So him doing the salute and then...
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Yeah, that was... And when Fred Ward seeing the thing on TV with his son's been killed, I liked that. That got me a little emotional.
I just wish that... It was so telegraphed. I almost wish they went the other way and made him live, because it was like, the whole episode he's not going to make it, and then so that would have been kind of fresh to somehow make him let him get out, but
I did think one thing, like in the way that with Woodrow when he was underneath the sewers in last episode and he took out all the Black Mountain guys, that was believable, but like I don't know, like I just felt like Colin Farrell and there's these guys with like like basically AK-47s or whatever, and they're coming at him and they're weaving around trees and he's able to just like get out, headshot, run, get out, headshot, run. Like to me it was just like, really, you think you're even gonna be able to take out one without taking a bullet? There's 5 of these guys.
Ultimately he didn't make it.
Yeah.
Ultimately he didn't do it.
I thought he had a fair chance. He was doing all right.
Well,
he was taking him down left and right, so for him just to jump out from behind the tree, I was like, come on, you got half of them already.
Well, he kind of expended too many rounds on each guy. He was like 4 rounds on each guy.
Yeah.
I also think at the end he made a choice, like if they catch me, they're going to torture me and I might end up dumping where Bezarides is.
Right.
Can we actually ask really quickly, why did they just annihilate him? Like
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense because Burris really wanted that information.
Yeah.
So he should have been like, would you hit this guy in the legs, hit him in the stomach, whatever. Don't kill him. We need to know where that stuff is. Otherwise it all comes around. And they were just like, like you're done.
What happened afterwards, you guys didn't see. It's like, you guys, I told you. Yeah, I told you guys. Swear to God.
Kill him. All right, so that ended. Look, there's been a lot of talk about, season 2, about, it was all the way along, like, we have a lot to say. I've been saying all along, let's wait until the thing is over to pass judgment. It's now over. My official take
Let's pass judgment.
Well, my official take is I still liked it. I think it was a decent story and piece of writing. I think that all the ideas were good. I think that his, Pizzolatto building the 4 characters were very interesting. I think that the idea, top line idea of this power structure in LA and the 3 jurisdictions was interesting. I think that getting into the muck of like what that crime story was versus having to make that fit, shoehorn into all this wonderful backstory of these characters was a little much. It reminds me a lot of, it's the same take I had when I saw Southpaw. Let's go off topic a little bit. I saw Southpaw, and I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it. I gave it like a C+. And the reason why is, I loved everything in the movie. I loved Gyllenhaal, all the individual performances I loved. I loved the boxing stuff. I loved Gyllenhaal. I loved Forrest Whitaker. I loved, everyone in the movie. But then I walked away and like, I don't think I like the movie. Like, I could like everything in the movie and not like the movie itself, which is kind of how I feel about this. I feel like, God, I like the idea of, wow, this is a great idea, and oh man, this performance is great, and this is great here, and I love this. I even bought in ultimately to Frank's performance, or Vince Vaughn's performance.
In the end.
I just think that, and this is just my take, and I'll let you guys talk, but like, I think that Frank as a character never ever really fit. This is not an original take. Everyone sort of said this. I agree. I think Frank was sort of like, you have this whole crime story, you have this thing happen, and then Frank sort of hung on to that thing, and they give him, as we talked about, so much real estate and so much time, and then to have him die, I'm a little, that's a little disappointing. I think also I loved all the Volcoro stuff. I loved all the Bizzaretti stuff. I'm on record saying the Woodrow stuff for me didn't quite work. I mean, the character, we got a lot back, sort of Black Mountain and the gay and the mother and the kid, and then he dies, and I sort of felt like, all right, there's that guy. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm left with. I don't know what my takeaway is. I don't feel satisfied by the crime story. I don't feel satisfied by two of the 4 main characters, but I still kind of liked it. So I don't know. It's a C+ for me.
I think, if you want my take on it, and I understand what you're saying, I think what's missing from this is any kind of fun. I look back on this entire season, I can't think of one time I smiled. I can't think of one time I laughed. I can't think of one time a character seemed to be smiling or laughing. I can't think of anything that happened in 8.5 hours that was remotely fun or enjoyable. This was grim from top to bottom. It was unrelentingly grim. It was depressing. I think part of the issue was, and to be totally clear, John Crowley's a great director. Nick Pizzolatto is a great writer. They brought in Jeremy Lin. They had great directors all season. I think these guys are incredibly talented, but there was not an adult in the room. And I think it's an inverse of Jar Jar Binks. I mean, Jar Jar Binks was brought on, right, because somebody thought
reference to the character from Star Wars Episode 1, guys.
In case there's some confusion.
Not True Detective.
A hateful character. and brought in because George Lucas thought, I know comedy. I do not know comedy, but I know it. And I think this is funny, and this is going to lighten things up. And there was nobody from a studio to say, this is a terrible idea.
And I think it was kind of racist, too.
A little bit, right?
A little
bit. I think that in this instance, there was no one there saying to him, if you make the characters fun and smile a little bit every now and then, people empathize more with them, will care more about them, and it will bring in the audience. And I think that didn't happen all season long. And the reason that he probably thought he was doing that is because last season he had that natural chemistry with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. They're best friends. They brought a natural thing to the screen. And so, and Cary Fukunaga directing all 8. So I mean, you had these other collaborators last season that maybe took what was dark and really, really unrelenting writing and made it a little bit lighter and a little more accessible. And that didn't happen this season. It was grim and it was rough.
Well, I mean, I think that, and someone made this point in the chat room, I'm okay with grim and rough. It's a crime story. This is True Detective.
But here's the thing.
This is what Pizzolatto does.
But here's my question.
What was season 1, a barrel of laughs?
No, this is my point. This is my point. Hey, you're making an argument you don't even truly believe because you didn't give a shit when Woodrow died. Yeah. Right? And you truly didn't, I mean, because you didn't empathize with him. And you didn't empathize with him because the character was not complete.
But that has nothing to do with joy and
yes, it is. There's little moments of joy that bring you into a character. If there's a joke, if there's a smile, if there's something. Just the moments where Woody Harrelson was teasing about Matthew McConaughey being crazy made the whole thing work. It's acknowledging how overly deep McConaughey was and poking a little fun, taking a little air out of the tension.
I think that the characters in season 1 were definitely a little more likable. Both of them were a little more likable, and the worlds were, and partially because there's only 2 of them and not 4 of them. So I think there's a lot to be said there. I think the trying to unpack all 4 of these characters from 4 different worlds and then try to make us care about them on top of this convoluted crime story was a bit much. Maybe there's only 2 of them, like Bizzaretti's and Velcoro. I'd be happy. But I don't know, Jules, what do you think?
No, I agree. Something you said earlier was that what Nick Pizzolatto does so well is he does great crime stories and he does great characters. I don't think he did either one of those greatly in this instance. I think he definitely bit off more than he can chew. The characters were never fleshed out. The story was convoluted and coincidental, which just infuriates me a little bit. When you're so invested and I'm taking these freaking copious notes, and all it is just some coincidence of some girl they met named Laura who's really Erica. Like that pisses me off.
Yeah, it felt
because
like
I'm trying hard here.
Well, it felt like he's sort of figuring this stuff along the way.
Well, yes, it did feel like that.
He was a crunch timeline from HBO. He's writing this on his own. It felt like some ideas were then explored and then abandoned and then maybe brought back to, like the recorder, the stuff to the sun.
Yes.
It felt a little all over the place in that sense, which is insulting to the viewer a little bit.
I agree. And, in the end, I just feel like the same way these characters didn't really have much connection to the crime, I felt like I had no connection to this story, to these characters, to the show in general, try though as I may. So in the end, I'm just sort of left feeling like frustrated and let down and kind of like bummed out and empty.
Well, I'm going to jump in.
That was, I feel like...
Ben?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
All right, so a couple of things I noticed. First of all, I watch some television. I don't watch a lot of network television. I catch up on old shows mostly. So in terms of currently watching TV at one time, this is probably one of 2 or 3 shows that I actually currently am watching. Like, it was the thing I looked forward to on Sunday every week the most throughout the whole season. It's our job to come on here and criticize and analyze, not to just clap our hands every week. So I think we all criticize the small points week to week. I loved it in the end, really. Like, at the end of the day, when I think about other dramas that I watched huge amounts of over time, like shows like Dexter or like House of Cards, where I've watched and they're good shows, they're solid shows. I'm never going to watch an episode of Dexter that I've watched once again. I don't want to go watch Dexter Season 2 again. I don't want to watch House of Cards again. I'll watch this again, 100%. I'll probably watch it next year again. It's excellent in tone. It's well acted mostly. There are parts that I definitely didn't enjoy. I do think that like Vince Vaughn's character overall was not super memorable, but I do think that from start to finish, the bar is set so high with what we expect from television now.
Of course.
This doesn't register.
And this series, the bar is set high.
Yep.
The season 1, as I've said before, is my favorite season of television of all time.
I concur.
So for this to fall short of that, that's fine. It's still there's still so many moments in this season alone that I remember already and look back and I'm like, that was really cool. I'd love to watch that again. This is going to play better with second viewing. It's just like the second season of The Wire. It really is. Yeah. There's a lot of crap in the second season of The Wire that when I think back on it, I'm like, that sucked. But then when I watch that season again, in the context of that show, the difference between those 2 shows, and there's a lot of comparison. I know everybody says about the season, it's like the second season of The Wire. Season 1 of The Wire was not critically acclaimed when it came out.
Well, no,
I mean,
hardly any of them.
No one watched
The Wire at all.
It wasn't until season 3 and 4 that people paid attention. So when they went back to watch it, there wasn't all this pressure for season 2. The fact that season 2 even got greenlit is actually kind of amazing.
Right.
This is like one of the most popular season 1s of a television show that HBO's ever made. So the expectation was completely unreasonable.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, some inside baseball stuff, and I agree with you for the most part. I'm looking forward to going back and watching this in its entirety as an 8.5 hour movie and really seeing some stuff.
Let me know how that goes.
I do, but you can see the scenes. I mean, I really do think that this whole auteur theory, Nick Pizzolatto could have used some producers and maybe a writer's room. He could have used a writer's room in this one because to help him sort of flesh some of the stuff out. He could have used a little more time. I don't know if it's realistic to have the one director, the whole one director, one writer theory again. That almost killed both of them in season 1. But it would be nice to have sort of one singular vision along with his singular vision. I think that would be a good way to do it again. It'll be interesting to see if they do in season 3 how they do that. But overall, it was ambitious stuff, and and a really ambitious work. And everyone was trying really hard, including Vince Vaughn. And I liked on the whole what I saw. Like you said, we can nitpick along the way as we did, but I think on the whole I like it. I'm very interested to watch it again, see if it plays out how I feel on a second viewing, watching the whole thing back to back to back, as I did season 1. Do we think that there'll be a season 3? And if so, what do we want to see another single director? I mean, what do you think, Joe? Do you want to see a season 3, or are you like, I'm out of here?
No, I don't. To me, I think once I would say Albert Pujols. It's like, once you pop and then sometimes you come down to earth a little bit, and sometimes you rise back up from that and are even better. I just think like I said, there's characters I did not care about, and those were the 4 leads. And if I don't care about the 4 leads, there's probably something wrong with the writing. And like I said, first season, I agree with you, best season of television in my memory. I absolutely loved it. So for me, I think if HBO is going to run this back, I'm sure they're over there and because they're very, 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 very smart guys and gals, and they're looking at the amount of press this is getting, and the amount of backlash it's getting, and the number of people.
The ratings are through the roof.
Yep.
I mean, the chatter is the same. It's even if it's not as right. Yellow
it's not
King,
as effusive,
rabbit hole, but it's still people are still talking about it. People are talking about it, like talking bad about it.
I think there's no question there's going to be a season 3, but I imagine there will be an adult in the room for season 3. I would imagine they're going to structure it differently. They're not going to give them a blank check like they gave them this time. But giving somebody a blank check with deadlines like this is a recipe for some.
Well, I think Pizzolatto would make it. I don't want to blame him because I feel like HBO,
it's a tough
like HBO kind of like forced this on him as well, like get this done really fast. But at the same time, it's like now we know it doesn't work. So, let's give the guy some more time or some more help or something.
Yeah, sure.
Julia?
Oh, I absolutely have no doubt that there will be a season 3, and I will be sitting in front of my television every Sunday, excited to see what happens every single episode.
Right.
And I agree with you guys. Season 1 was just stellar television. And I was let down this season. I just feel like it was just too much. He tried to do too much, and I need a little bit more focus next time, please, Nick, if you're listening.
Here's a question for you guys. HBO has made a lot of money off of producing films and optioning films off of their most popular television shows, most notably Entourage recently.
Oof.
Do you think it's possible? Made a lot of money. Do you think it's possible that they would hire a director and a writer to make a 2.5-hour True Detective brand movie, and it would be a crime movie, and it would make a ton of money because everybody loves it?
Not without Pizzolatto. I mean, they wouldn't hire another director besides him.
But maybe they would. Do you think? How likely do you think it is that eventually we would see a movie made out of the series?
Well, I think that's a possibility. But to your point, HBO's never done that with Sex and the City. They kept just Darren Star with it was Doug Ellen with Entourage. So if they do it, they don't abandon the creators. So Pizzolatto will be involved. The question is who will be the director. I'd much rather see a Pizzolatto written, directed, sole directed 2-hour movie, a 2.5-hour movie. Just because if I only have 2 things to compare, he did it once with one director, it was great. Did it once with 5 directors, in a short timeline. Yeah. So with a lot of time and one director, I think that it could be amazing.
Sure.
With not a lot of time and a bunch of directors, it's what you get. But the actors were great, but not enough. I don't know, Joe. Well, let me ask you this, then we'll get out of here. Who do we want to see? What actors would we like to see, do a True Detective? Just give me 2 or 3 who we'd like to see.
I want Tom Wilkinson involved.
Okay.
I want Fassbender involved.
Okay. Ooh, Fassbender would be great.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I love me some Fassbender.
Me too. He's one of my male crushes. Along with he's everywhere now, but I'm a big oh my god, I forgot his name.
Hardy, Tom Hardy.
No, Hardy's good too. But what's my man? Oscar, ex Machinima, Llewellyn Davis,
yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaacs, thank you.
Oscar Isaacs, yeah.
I'm a huge Oscar Isaacs guy.
Right,
I'll watch anything
cool.
that guy's in right now. And he's actually doing an HBO show right now. He's doing the David Simon show. So anyway,
I would love to see. Who I'd actually really like to see, even though I feel like his star has kind of fallen, but I think it would be so good if you put him in. Would be Don Cheadle. I would love Don Cheadle, Michael Fassbender, and Tom Wilkinson.
I like that. No women? You're Pizzolatto woman hater?
No, I don't know. I would have to think a little bit.
Jules, anybody?
Jessica Chastain.
Pizzolatto, the hater. Which is funny because the only 2 people that survived this time were the 2 women.
Exactly.
Do you think he did that on purpose?
I'm
It's
sure
like a
he
shout out
did.
to his critics.
He did.
Hey, look,
He's like,
I let him live.
You think I hate women?
Aren't I
You're
such a
welcome.
nice guy?
I killed all the men.
I love ladies.
Here they go. And they got a baby. Boom.
Oh, yeah. And they reproduce.
I thought the baby's a boy.
Yeah,
So.
way to go. Hate women.
You?
Oh, God. I have no idea. I haven't even thought about it. I love the idea of Fassbender.
Someone said Michael Cera.
No, please.
Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Cera, and Michael C. Hall.
What about a little Cranston? Brian Cranston?
Brian Cranston.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah.
That would be a good
popular.
one.
Find a way to put Julianne Moore on the show. I'll be
Yes,
Oh,
she's okay. Super
I'm
watchable.
in for her.
All right.
Daniel Craig, Tom Hardy, Julianne Moore.
Daniel Craig, look at you.
drops the mic.
That's
Boom.
all.
Good night, Wisconsin.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for us. That was for our prediction part. That's it. That's 8.5 hours. I'm gonna watch it again back to back.
Damn right
I think
you are.
that's it.
Do you guys want to come over and watch with us? What do you?
Yes,
No?
you too.
Oh, I might be a little bit late, but
time?
I'll
The
get there.
You get 8 hours, 26 minutes?
Yes. Flip, any last words on
Nope.
No? Got nothing really. You really hate
No, I didn't hate the season. You know what ladies say? What do women say? The number one thing they like in men? Sense of humor.
Okay.
So don't say anything bad.
I was wondering what you were going to say. It's like, I don't know. What do we ladies say, Flip? You tell me.
What I've been told is a sense of humor. Now, it's because I allegedly have one.
Where can the people find you, Jeff?
You can find me at Joe Flippo, JoeFlippo.
Got it.
Me?
Julia.
Twitter and Instagram
Yeah,
with my
Twitter.
name.
That would be important to know that.
With my name, Julia Cearley, JuliaCearley.
Thank you, Mr. Ben Bateman.
Ben Bateman Media at Twitter and Instagram. I just wanted to thank you guys for bringing me on this panel.
Yes,
I love being a part of it. And
Thank you for coming. You're awesome.
No.
It's my favorite show on TV, so to get to do it and talk to, I hope I did a good enough job for the fans out there. I tried my best. I loved it. I want to come back.
Oh,
So.
look
Of course.
at you.
I'm Joe Braswell, and great to have you here. And we'll next season, if there is a season, we'll all be here
There'll be
every
a season.
time.
Yes,
no
we'll be
phones,
here.
no nothing. We'll all be here. And thank you. I'm Joe Braswell at Joe K Braswell, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. We will see you all next year.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
It has his head off.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.